Nicht eins, nicht zwei, nicht drei, nicht vier, Cantor, rabbis. I think we have a minyan this evening. But does anyone know why I counted you with the Yiddish for not one, not two, not three, not four, and so on? You see, even though the word minyan actually means counting, according to Jewish superstition, it is forbidden to point to people and count them out loud for fear of attracting the ayin hara, the evil eye. Thus, when worshipers would saunter into the shul in the early morning, they would not count 1, 2, 3, 4 to see if there was the required quorum present. Rather, they would count not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, and so on. Indeed, many scholars believe that it was this very need to count the minyan without counting that led to the insertion of the Ma Tovu prayer at the beginning of the morning prayer service. The first verse of Ma Tovu has exactly 10 words. So Jews would walk into the shul, kiss the mezuzah on their way in, wrap themselves in their talitot, and, not knowing yet whether the required 10 were present, would begin to sing Ma Tovu. And when they got to the first verse, they would count the people present in their heads, assigning one word to each worshiper. So they would count Va'ani, Berov, Chastacha, Avo, Veitecha, etc., etc. We see we have a minyan tonight. Good. Because if we didn't have a minyan, we would have to delete the most important prayer rubrics from our service, including the Baruch Hu, the Torah reading, and even the Kaddish, which is why we send minyan leaders into the homes of the bereaved. This, along with our Torah guardians, of course, I believe is one of the most sacred things we do at Temple Israel. During the period in which the mourners are confined to their homes, these learned and faithful volunteers go into those homes to lead a service that can include the mourner's Kaddish. Thankfully, this evening, I didn't really need to count. With our pavilions unavailable this week, a bat mitzvah in the sanctuary, several simchas and honors to be given, and increasing numbers coming back to temple each and every Shabbat, I'm afraid this has become a minyan safuf, or what you might call a stuffed minyan. In any case, my point is that in Judaism, a Jew alone does not count as much as a Jew in a minyan. 9 tzaddikim, righteous ones, do not make a quorum, but add one unlearned Jew, and he creates the minyan. Judaism is in the endless search for that 10th person. And I'm sure many of you remember being rousted out of a warm bed in order to complete a minyan for the local shul in your neighborhood. I remember once on vacation with some temple families, we were sitting together around the pool, and I was in the last chapters of a really good book, when a Jewish fellow came over and asked if one of us would join the minyan so that he could say Kaddish for his mother. I was sitting next to Fred Ehrlich, and so I pointed to him and said, "He's a rabbi, he'll do it." And he did. What if 10 adult Jews cannot be found? Well, the halacha tells us that then we settle for 9 Jews and a child holding a Bible. Judaism is not so much a faith as it is a minyan, a congregation. Now, where did this requirement for 10 come from? Could we not have a community of 7? After all, the world was created in 7 days. It's an important number. How about 3, also a sacred number in Judaism? According to the rabbis, the answer lies in our Torah portion this week, Shalach Lecha. In our portion, the story is told of the 10 spies who go out to spy out the land of Canaan as an edah, or a congregation. From this reference, the rabbis deduce that a congregation, an edah, must consist of at least 10 people. The Talmud teaches that wherever a community of a minyan of Jews gather for prayer, there God's Spirit may be found. The minyan, you see, is not merely an arbitrary rabbinical requirement. Rather, it is a philosophy of life. It teaches us that we need community in order to reach personal fulfillment. In Judaism, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. It is possible for the group to reach a higher spiritual plane than can each individual on their own. People often ask me, Rabbi, why do I have to come to synagogue to pray? Can I not just go out into a field alone? Well, I have been driving around this community for decades now, searching for those people praying in those fields, and so far, garnished. However, even if people were breaking down the fences to get into those fields to pray, this would not take away the obligation of the Jew to join his or her heart with other Jews to form a congregation so that one in spirit they might climb together the mountain of Adonai. As many of you know, before my 3 back surgeries, I was a mountain climber. And the cardinal rule of climbing is that we do not attempt a difficult peak alone. Instead, we rope ourselves together so that if one falls, the others can lift him up. The climb to God also is difficult. It can be achieved only if we climb together. Every society, you see, has 2 choices. It can emphasize the individual, or it can emphasize the community. American individualism is part and parcel of our secular culture. We saw it on full display last night in the presidential debate. Until then, I never knew that a key requirement for the President of the United States was a low golf score. Just think how much time and money we could save. We could forego the costly and rancorous election season and the attack ads and so on, and just have the candidates play a few rounds of golf, perhaps at Franklin or Knollwood or Tam O'Shanter. Lowest score wins. I am joking, of course, but I am quite serious about the fact that what we heard last evening was an expression of American individualism run amok. I mean, golf is not even a team sport. All I could say, watching these 2 grown men arguing about the golf score, was Vasemir. And that is why I believe that such me-focused individualism has ushered in an age of existential loneliness for us and for our children. Judaism is the corrective for that loneliness. It is a culture which emphasizes the Minyan, and I see the positive effects of that emphasis on community around me every day. I see it when I enter a home of a shiva and find there a group of friends and family, of faithful volunteers from temple, already coming together in support of those who have lost a loved one. I felt it most keenly on the Friday after October 7th, when almost 1,000 Jews showed up to pray for our brothers and sisters in Israel in a show of absolute solidarity. I was especially touched, though, by the Minyan of Chaldean neighbors from Shenandoah across the road, who not only showed up in support, but actually were moved to contribute $10,000 to the Israel Emergency Fund of the Federation. I feel it at every one of the Israel programs we have sponsored since then, each one filled to the brim with supporters. I have felt the communal power of the Minyan surrounding me at every Kabbalat Shabbat since then, as we have gathered to support one another through the anti-Semitism that heinous attack on Israel paradoxically released into our society. And I feel it here this evening amongst all of you stuffed into our Corman Hall. If numbers say a great deal about a culture, then it is the number 10, the number of Minyan, of community, which symbolizes the essence of Judaism most completely. May we all be blessed with the loving comfort of community, and may this be only one of many minyanim that the future shall hold for all of us as we climb the difficult path of spiritual fulfillment together. Kein Yehi Ratzon, may it be your will, O God, and let us say, Amen.